You're listening to the Road to Wisdom podcast, weaving stories told by wonderful minds about all things motherhood, health, intimacy, politics, nature, and everything in between.
Join us on an adventure discovering unique experiences that we can learn from to enhance the ways in which we live.
We are your hosts, Chloe
and Kashia. Welcome everyone to the Road to Wisdom podcast. Today we are doing a little switcheroo. I have dear friend and Olympian Jess in the studio and we'll be interviewing Chloe. No, and Chloe is remote. So this is the first time we've switched it up today, but I feel like it'll go smoothly. Yeah. How are you feeling being in the co-host seat, Jess?
I'm liking it.
Yeah?
Maybe I should get into this.
Don't get caught.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
She's coming back. So today we have Jess in. Jess is going to take us through her journey of being at the snow, which is where we met, which was a right old party time. And from there going to the Olympics and then becoming a mother. And then we're going to get a little political and talk about what we're seeing today in women's athletics and athletics. Can I?
In female sport.
Yeah.
Professional sport. Thank you. Running off 2 hours sleep. So welcome, Jess.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
I'm stoked to be here.
And yeah, take us through. So you used to do the snowboarding.
I did. It feels like a lifetime ago now. But we met, I think it was like probably 2011, maybe 2010.
Yeah. Something like that.
I kind of, when I finished high school, I was at that stage where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had this passion for just sport in general. But I just, all my friends were going off to university and I was like, that's not me. I don't think I want to do that right now. And a teacher at my school suggested maybe going to do a season snowboarding. And I was like, sure. Like, why wouldn't I? And so stars aligned. And I when I was 17, I graduated and moved off to Whistler in Canada, like a lot of Australians do. And I learnt how to snowboard. And it was basically from then on, I didn't stop for 11 years. I was back-to-back winter. I loved it so much. So that's kind of where it started.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even know that.
Really?
Yeah, that's crazy. I thought you were some like child prodigy that your parents were kind of like, you will snowboard.
Well, the majority of people in competitive snowboarding are like that. But no, I was the unique case that kind of picked it up later. I did have a background in gymnastics, which kind of helped with the whole balance and everything. And then I also grew up wanting to be a professional surfer, but I just was nowhere near good enough to even compete. But I did love surfing. So I had that kind of, those two merged together is a pretty good base for snowboarding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then so back-to-back seasons, was it on the radar when you started out that you wanted to compete?
Yeah, no, I didn't even know that there was professional snowboarding when I started. I actually thought professional snowboarding was instructing or coaching. So my first season, I actually went through that and became a snowboard instructor. And that's when I moved to Buller and we met. And I was a snowboarding instructor, but it wasn't me. I used to watch everybody like snowboarding around having fun and I'd be standing there teaching beginners and I was like, oh, not what I expected. So, yeah, then I just started snowboarding in the terrain parks with you guys and Togga. And it went from there. And then I realised you can start competing. I started doing that, like pretty well. There wasn't that many girls in Australia doing it. So, yeah, that's when I realised, okay, this is a thing. I'll keep going. And it just kind of steamrolled from there. I kept doing well in contests, so I'd go in a bigger contest and then I'd do kind of well in that. And yeah, so then I guess it was maybe 2 years in, I got my first sponsor. And from then on, I was like, okay, I'm committed. This is the best. I can't believe I can do this for a job. Yeah.
Epic. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so then when did you end up at the Olympics?
So I was trying to go to the 2014 Olympics, and I actually broke my femur in the qualification year. So it's the year before where you do all the qualifications to make it. And I broke my femur, which meant I was out for minimum 6 months. So that was kind of heartbreaking, but it really showed me that like I've got the passion for this. It didn't cross my mind once that I didn't want to get back to snowboarding. Like I had to relearn how to walk again. I had to like all that. Yeah. So much training and physio, but like never once was I like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then that's kind of when it's like was concrete that I was going to aim for the 2018 Olympics, and that was going to be like, that was my goal.
Yeah. Epic.
Yeah.
So cool. And then you ticked that one off.
Yeah.
Got there.
Yeah. I got injured. I tore my ACL.
Didn't you break your back or something? Like, or I read that you broke your back or did your ACL or something.
Yeah, well, I've done both.
Before, like it in weeks. Oh my God. You're a wild woman.
But I
She's
did.
actually wild though. Like you should have seen her, like some of the shit she would pull. I would be like, I can't even watch Jess.
Same. I was like, what just happened? But it's because I started snowboarding with a lot of guys, and they really pushed me because there wasn't that many women at the snowfields in Australia. So I think I just didn't have that fear that usually I guess like women have because we're told that we can't do lots of things. I didn't really have that because I was just watching guys and I was like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
So yeah. But yes, I did end up tearing my ACL completely a couple of weeks before the Olympics and had to fly back to Australia, had some intense rehab, had to go through testing to be able to be approved by the team to be able to compete, which I think is a bit ridiculous because I did all of the work to get there and then someone was telling me whether or not I was ready. But anyway, I did that. They didn't approve me to compete in one of the contests that I qualified for, but then I did get approval for the second one and ended up just taping my knee so much and doing it. Yeah.
Give it a red hot crack with a bit of tape and see what happens.
That's exactly it.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
So for everyone out there, Jess competed slopestyle, which is, do you want to explain slopestyle?
So yeah, I did the two the two types of contests I did was one was big air, so it's just one big jump, and you get scored on two of your best jumps, and that's what counts. And then also slopestyle is a combination of kind of street style rails and jumps in one run. So you've got to do, it's usually around 3 different jumps you hit and then 3-4 different rail setups that you do. So it's just so much adrenaline.
It's so much adrenaline, but it's also like it's got to be one of the higher risk of
100%.
of all of them that you compete. I mean, yeah, I don't know. None of the Winter Olympic Games are really low risk, but I feel like slopestyle is definitely one that you can really fuck yourself up on. So
Yeah, and I have multiple times.
yeah. Well, that femur didn't last long, did it?
I actually ended up breaking it twice. So
Oh
yeah,
my
I just
gosh.
look, I'm not saying I'm the smartest person because who does that and goes
Just
back
determined.
yeah, but I was. It's like I had something to prove to myself. I don't know what was going on, but I just couldn't stop. That was my goal, and I was going to do anything to get there. So yeah,
Mate, full on.
yeah, full on.
And now how's mum life treating you?
you know what? So I think
The parallels must be like exactly the same, right?
Exactly. It's as high risk as each other, basically.
I'm just
High
as
risk,
injured now.
wild.
Yeah, like I think coming in.
Let's go back a little bit. Like
Yeah.
when did when where was the kind of like transition, or where did
Yeah.
we like, okay, this is actually going that way and I'm going to go this way?
Yeah. Okay. So when I got home from the Olympics 2018, I had to have surgery on my knee. And so at this stage I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep competing. I'll just have this surgery. And then I went back home, got the surgery, and it's a long recovery for ligaments. I would say it's harder than bones. Bones hurt more, but ligaments, they're a long recovery and long process to rehab. And so I had a lot of time where I couldn't snowboard. And that was kind of my outlet for everything. It's kind of your stress relief. You can be creative. You're outside. You're doing exercise. It was everything to me. And so I had all of this time to just kind of think. And I got in a little bit of a dark place because I was like, who am I without this? Like, and where I was living at the time, everyone was like, Jess the snowboarder. Like, Jess is the snowboarder. I was nothing else. Like, that's what everyone would talk to me about. That's what I was. And so I had this kind of clash of kind of inner dialogue where I was like, is this all I am, or what do I want? And then I went through this kind of stage and I was like, as a female professional athlete, we put aside having a family to compete, because as women, it's not just the birth. You know, you're pregnant for so long. You've got to, you want to take off a lot of time as well after the birth to care for, you know, your family. So I'd say it's minimum 2 years if off the sport. And at the rate that extreme sports move, especially like snowboarding or anything like that, you just get left behind. There's no, like, you have to be something special to be able to come back from that and then compete at that level when you're competing against like kids that have just come up that are so young and so resilient, have no worries in the world. And I just had this, realization. I was like, I do want to be a mother and I do want to have a family and I do want more for my life than just snowboarding. I'm interested in other things. Like, yes, I love snowboarding. It's the best, but is it something that I want forever? And so, this was all just like within maybe mid 2018, just after the Olympics. And I was like, right, what am I going to do? And I ended up doing, which I think is stupid now, by the way, but I ended up doing an 8-day water fast. And I became so clear, like my thoughts. I'd never had such pure, clear thoughts. And I was like, I'm moving away and becoming a naturopath. And I was like, what? And literally on day 8 of that water fast, I enrolled in uni up on the Gold Coast to do a Bachelor of Health Science. And I kind of just left my life behind in Jindabyne where I was, and was trying to, I guess, search for who I really was outside of snowboarding. Because, it was 10 years or so, back-to-back winter. That's all I had. I was training. I was so determined for this one thing, and it was quite selfish. All I thought about was me and doing this snowboarding thing. That's what kind of led me away from snowboarding. And, I guess that's my personality. I just had to up and leave and move somewhere where I didn't know anyone and see who I was without people knowing that I was just the snowboarder. That's kind of what I did.
An identity. Finding.
In the most like extreme way as an athlete.
But I feel like you wouldn't be alone there, because I mean, what is the actual age for a female athlete in snow sports?
So it used to be when I was competing, like everyone was similar to my age. Maybe as I was getting towards like late 20s, there was an influx of younger kids that had, like you said, been doing it like early days. Their parents had the means to be able to put them in, like to travel to the snow all the time. Yeah. And so they came up and they're guns. Those guys can snowboard like no other. And so, yeah, I feel like when I was in my prime, 30 was like probably the highest age.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just saw myself. So I was 28 at the 2018 Olympics, and I was like, do I have another round in me? I'll be 32. What? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
do I want a life outside of this, and do I want to explore that while I'm, I don't know. I'm still kind of young, and that's what I thought.
Yeah, no, because I feel like that like identity kind of crisis would hit so many athletes, because it is like when you are young, you're like, I'm invincible. Like
Totally.
you never really think for the future, but then like there is a ceiling on being an athlete. Like you don't have.
I'm not going to be 40, like throwing myself off this stuff. Like, yeah, I'll do it for fun, but I'm not going to be doing tricks. Like, or if I am, I'm not going to be doing it competitively. Like, there is a lot of risk. And as you get older, it gets harder for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, no, I wonder, like, did you talk to other athletes or like people who had been there and
So
done the sea change?
what was really hard is, I guess, like where I was at then, the only other female snowboarder in Australia that had kind of done this was Tora.
Yeah.
And she is a good friend of mine and someone I've always looked up to. But she was already on a different path. She was overseas. So I didn't really talk to her about it. And then, so I didn't really have anyone to kind of follow or I just kind of, did it. I just trusted my gut, I guess, and just did what I thought I had to.
And the delusions you had in your water fast.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like now I'm like, like I did feel really
That's
good,
hilarious.
but I don't think it was smart for where my body was at, where I was in, like, as a woman. Anyway, that it led me here, and I'm so happy. So I can't regret doing stuff like that. But yeah, it was a very extreme thing to do for, I guess. Yeah, I expect nothing less from myself.
So how far into your degree did you get pregnant then, or just have to have a baby?
Yeah. So what's so funny is I was about 3 years in to my 4-year degree, or 3.5 actually. And there was a lot of things that came up in the degree about pregnancy, and I was like, yes, this is a great area. I'll get back to that and learn more about it after. So I didn't pay attention to that because I wanted to be like a naturopath for athletes because I was still in the game. But what's really funny is the perfect surprise of my son came along that I wasn't expecting at all. And I was like, I did not pay attention to any of these things because it was something that I was going to do later when it was.
Circle back.
Yeah.
When I'm old and a mother.
And what's funny is I was subconsciously doing kind of preconception work for a year because I guess as you learn more about your body and through what I was learning, I just had already done all of these things and I was preparing my body for a pregnancy, but I'd always, like my partner Andrew and I had always said babies after uni because it's hectic at uni. And I was like, yeah, so that's the goal, you know, we'll get through uni and then we'll have kids because then I'll be 32, I'll be ready. Kind of I felt like at that stage as well, I wasn't going to resent having a family or anything because I feel like I'd done everything that I personally wanted to achieve. I was finishing my degree. I'd already done all the snowboarding stuff that was my dream and my passion. So yeah, when we found out that I was pregnant, it kind of it was a perfect surprise, and we were like, yeah, we're ready. Let's do it. And so I felt like my body was already ready. I already had complete trust in the process. So yeah, that's what happened. So I had done 3.5 years of my degree, and then I think I was 35 weeks pregnant when I finished my last my semester, and then had Hunter, my son, and then went back for my last semester after he was born.
Wow.
Crazy.
I know how hard that is.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah. But again, I think it's that athlete mentality. I was like, yeah, I can do it. Give me more. Yeah, let's I don't think that there's something misfiring where I love that high cortisol.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan at all?
My partner does.
Oh my God. I listen to way too much Joe Rogan. But he talks about like they've done, like the cat poo thing, like toxic toxmosis or whatever it is. Yeah, that bacteria. Apparently that in people like gives you that psychotic Did you have cats?
No. I think I just have a screw loose. But yeah. And something to prove from something that probably happened in my childhood. Yeah.
Something like all of us back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was your pregnancy then as a naturopath student and just knowing all the things about your body and
so I feel blessed because I knew so much about my body, but I also knew nothing about pregnancy. My closest friendship circle, we hadn't no one had kids yet. No one in my family, I didn't have any nieces or nephews or anything. So this was a real foreign area for me. But I was like, bring it on, I'm ready. And I intuitively just kind of listened to my body. I had a pretty rough first trimester with sickness, but other than that, it was a really great pregnancy. And now I'm like, I miss it. I didn't think I'd miss it at the time because, you're like, okay, I'm ready for the baby to come out. But now I'm like, oh, I loved being pregnant. So it was a great pregnancy. I feel blessed that I knew what to put in my body. I was already living a really clean lifestyle. I was working in my partner's restaurant, so I was working in hospitality though. After on my days off uni, and I remember when it was really stressful and I'd walk out the back and hold my tummy and I'd be like, we're not really stressed, we're just really busy. Because I knew the effects of high cortisol on the baby. And so I'd walk out and I'd be like, deep breath. We're not stressed, you're safe, you're safe. It's just hospitality. But
oh my God, that's actually so cute.
I should have been doing that this whole podcast. We're not really stressed.
Seriously.
Fine. It's just podcast.
But the baby's like, we are, bitch. We're not stressed. I know you are.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hear you screaming.
Yeah.
I hear you screaming.
I don't know if he believed it, but yeah. But I tried.
It's a good try.
Yeah, thanks.
And then Hunter just popped out real breezy.
In my head, that was how it was going to happen.
It's that athlete mentality, isn't it? Oh my God, my body is so strong.
I am a weapon. I can do this.
If I can do 2 broken femurs, I can absolutely.
And I think those broken femurs were to my detriment, really. So I did have quite a long labour. The whole time, I never even thought of going to hospital. I was like, home birth, get in the pool, where doing this, I'm built for this. The whole time I feel really blessed that I had that sense that I could do it. But especially because I didn't know anyone that had done it. Really, I was so out of that loop. But I had a really long labour, and it's because Hunter, his neck was kind of stuck. And so he never really dropped properly. And so I was having contractions from 3 minutes to 20 minutes for about 3 days. And I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten, but I was like, I'm doing this. I was like, Andy, fill up the bath. We're having this baby. But I went through the midwifery program, and she had me doing stair climbs through my contractions on day 3. I was doing downward dogs. I was it was I was at the gym all over again.
It was an active.
It was, and I was kind of thriving in that. I was because I had something to do. I was like, okay, wait for the contraction, then we go. But
exactly the opposite of what you're actually meant to do.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we were trying to drop him. I lost my mucus plug, so that was great. But after 3 days, that kind of really I was exhausted, I guess, by day 3. And then anyway, yeah, unfortunately, I went to hospital, and then, you know, once you're in hospital, it's kind of like it was my biggest fear through pregnancy was intervention and hospitals. We even did this little like ceremony where we wrote down our fears and burned them, and that was mine. And yeah, so I ended up at the hospital, and because I went to Lismore and I was with the Byron midwifery program, I didn't get my midwives either. So that was, then I was just kind of thrown into a bit of unknown. And then I got to Lismore Hospital and they said they didn't have room for me, that I'd have to go to Tweed. And so that was another 1.5-hour drive. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I am depleted and exhausted. I need to birth.
Yeah.
And the whole time though, I had this sense that like Hunter was fine. I wasn't worried about Hunter. I just knew that we needed to, you know, birth.
It was time for him to come out.
I couldn't do that much longer. I don't think I've ever been that exhausted. And then you start feeling the pain more because you are in that hospital situation. Firstly, I feel like it's just, I started being in pain as soon as I got rolled in there. But yeah, I ended up having my waters broke, but yeah, I wasn't dilating. And I ended up getting a light epidural, which another thing I thought I would never do. And I still to this day am like really upset about it. But I have a happy, healthy boy. So that is what it is. I was lucky that I could still move around. I wasn't laying on my back. So it was still active. I was on my knees and moving around the bed. But yeah, it definitely wasn't what I wanted. And then I was given a 3-hour window to birth. Otherwise, they were going to give me a C-section. So that's what happened. And I was like, this is, in my head, I remember being like just ticking off the boxes of like intervention, like as it was going down. I was like, that is not happening. And I think that's when the real like athlete mentality came in, and I was like, I'm birthing this boy.
Just go in there and like scoop the baby out. You're like, not on my watch.
And then I went through the transition and I was like dry heaving, and I was like, yes, this is it. This is what I learned about. And I ended up birthing Hunter naturally, vaginally at 2 hours and 40 minutes. And they wanted,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was like, but yeah, so anyway, and then
so you beat the goal.
Yeah, I won.
You won.
Yeah.
20 minutes early, bitch.
Yeah. But it definitely I was so rattled by that for so long, and so wrapped with guilt for going to hospital, because it was something that I didn't want, and then ended up, epidural. And I obviously know from my education just what it does to the body and what implications that has, and the list of interventions. But yeah, so anyway, long story short though, Hunter came out, he's perfect. He didn't even his heart rate was fine the whole time. I wasn't worried about him at all. There was a bit of meconium, but again, he was fine. And I shit myself too, so
we all do.
So
this is a big shit fest. Love it.
It's so good.
Yeah. And then we got the hell out of hospital as soon as I could, which was a few hours later, and we got home.
So good.
Yeah.
So you got home and then slept for 72 days?
I don't think I've slept since. Yeah, it wow.
Yeah.
That's you think being an athlete's hard.
Oh my God, I feel so validated right now.
Being a new mum is a new world. You go through this amazing, crazy process, and then you get zero time to recover. Every injury I had weeks, months to like get back,
Yeah.
kind of rebuild my strength.
And the thing is too, is when you have an injury, everyone's like, mate, you just need to rest. You need to
Totally.
recover. But when you have a baby, they're like, they're like, yeah, you've got to feed it and you've got to be up every night and you've got to.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no rest and recovery.
Like it was wild. And I remember like the first time I went out, like I was very strict on myself too, obviously, doing the whole like recovery, like 40 days, that kind of like, so I didn't go out of the house for a while, but I remember the first time I did and it was without Hunter and I was like out in public and I was like, why is everyone acting normal? I was like, do they not know what just happened? It's like, that was the biggest thing that's ever happened in my life. And like, everyone's just acting normal.
People going on about their days. Like,
what? It was so confronting just going back out in public. But yeah, I feel like maybe that's just a first time mum thing and not knowing anyone with kids and just going through it and then being like, just learning on the job. I was like, wow. But yeah, it's really, I think coming from that athlete like base and then being going through birth and being a mum and like, mums are amazing. I look at every single mum and I'm like, good on you. Like, you're killing it.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Like, it's, I can't believe all these women do it, you know? Like, you're just like, and then a few months later, I'm like, I'm ready for number 2. Like, let's have another baby.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's like got to be the most bizarre part of it. Dude, I was like, because, okay, I didn't have quite as much of a situation as you did, but I remember coming back after Willow and like between contractions, like I was full exorcist, like smashing my head on the shower and stuff, trying to get the pain out of the contractions. And so I was like my forehead was bruised, my eyes were bloodshot, my neck was really sore because I was like doing this weird, but it's like a few days later, we were at the hospital a couple of days and I was looking at her and I'm like, Toha, we're doing it again. It's just like the wait, what?
And that's like, we're built for this. That's like, yeah, it's wild. But I do think as well, like knowing what you know after, and I've learned so much since then, like I was doing lots of osteo and massage because I knew he was in a bit of a bad position. Like he wasn't like, he was asynclitic. Is that what you
asynclitic.
Yeah. And so it wasn't like breach or anything. I like, even so, I was like, yeah, we can move him. Let's move him while he's in my tummy. But I think all my injuries to my pelvis as well and just that snowboarding history really impacted that. And now knowing what I know, I'm like, I should have gone to a pelvic floor specialist, like an internal one. And I had this thing in my mind before having him that I should go, but it was easier for me to find the osteo and all of that because I already had that around me. And now I'm like, I should have listened to that. I think that was the thing because I could feel my hip when I was giving birth. I could feel just this one spot where he was kind of stuck. And I was like, I remember being like, this is my pelvic floor.
Dude, that's so funny because I had that with Poet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I've been seeing a pelvic floor physio this time because I'm like, I don't want that happening again.
And that's the thing. I was like, that's what it was. It was my history of like trashing my body. Yeah. It wasn't the birthing process. Nothing was wrong there. It was just I was a bit out of alignment. And well, that's what I truly believe. And I'm like, damn it.
Nah, you're good. Second time around.
Yeah.
Redemptive.
Oh my, that might be it too. I'm like, another one so I can just try and one up. Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, it's just my 5th baby and I'm like still learning about the things to not do or like, oops, I did that a little bit differently or like, oh, the next baby, I'll do that. And it's like, okay, 5th time around, I have learned some shit and I'm ready to just have the baby the way I want it.
Yeah. Dude, that was like, seriously, after Poet even, I was like, oh, if I ever did this again, like, and I had no intention of having another baby and then, now I get to try it out.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's funny as well, like having no one around me with that kind of experience, I intuitively, just through the whole process, I kind of was backing away from all of the mainstream kind of medical. We weren't even taught about it too much at school, to be fair. Like we're taught about, you know, the nutrient needs and kind of the physiological changes in your body, but not about the medical system. And but I just intuitively was like, that doesn't sound right. Like, so yeah, I remember backing away from all of those kind of things during that. So it's interesting though, yeah, being like, I learned so much from that pregnancy that now I'm like, I just want to do it in the bush.
Walk into a river and we're done.
Yeah, exactly.
I can resonate with that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to flip this conversation on its head a little bit because I'd love to talk, like obviously Chloe and I have daughters and you may too in the very near future. Yeah. Well, look, you've come on the podcast, so chances are you'll be pregnant quite soon.
I'm drinking the water around
yeah. Tends to happen. And yeah, I mean, something that has obviously come up recently, especially with dear and beloved Bethany Hamilton being dropped by Rip Curl for basically taking a stand against competing against biological men in surfing competition. Now it's being quite a thing where in athletic competition we're becoming more trans inclusive.
You're not supposed to laugh after saying it.
I'm trying to be politically correct. Trans inclusive.
Well, you're not if you laugh afterwards.
Noted.
Real. So, and this is something that I have red flagged now because my daughter is looking to be quite a promising little boarding human. Yeah. She rips on skateboard and out and surf. Yeah, oh so cool. Mate, you'd be so proud. You know Tugger. Yeah. Little prodigy. Yeah. And as soon as we do get to the snow, we'll be those parents. Yeah. Come on, you can do it. Follow me over this box. So, you know, something that's come up for us is like, okay, so who's she going to be competing against? And I guess like one of the things that, you know, has come to light is now she could be competing against a biological male. This isn't something that you had to experience, but
no, not at all.
But following along what is happening in the sports world, what are your thoughts on trans women competing against women? And I guess knowing what you do about the female body, what would you say? Like, are there any advantages to have been a man for so many years and then transitioning to not a man?
Yes. So like, I think everybody has the right to participate in sport. I think, you know, that's everyone has the right, but I think we need to set some ground rules that maybe there are biological differences between men and women. I think I struggle to see the place that a trans woman doesn't have an advantage over a biological woman.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know about the female body and our hormones and how they influence kind of our performance and our energy and even our muscles and our strength, I struggle to see it being fair. I think we should have maybe it just should be a different realm. You know what I mean? I think it's bringing in too many questions, like how far along the process of this gender change
Spectrum.
Yeah. Do you need to be included in this in a female event? Like, is it you just identify as a woman, or like there's no I really don't see a place where we can be on a level playing field. Just even thinking about our menstrual cycle, and we were talking about this before, that, you know, women have a 24-hour cycle of hormones and a monthly cycle of hormones, whereas men, they have a level testosterone level throughout, you know, every day, 365 days a year. So we as women deal with certain fluctuations in, you know, our mood, our strength, even just our kind of vitality and
Ligament stability.
That's exactly right. We've got that relaxin that's released that gives us a higher risk of ligament injury. And in something like an extreme sport, especially snowboarding, where you're already at such a high risk of a ligament injury, women then have to navigate their cycle and adjust accordingly and either spend more time like warming up. I remember doing extra ligament like stability strength training the days that I was ovulating or something like that, because, you know, I knew that I was at high risk. And when you're competing against other women that have that same thing, it's all, you know, we're all on a level playing field. But if you're competing against someone that doesn't have those exact hormones, then it's like, well, how do you not have an advantage that you don't have to worry about it? It's not at the back of your head. Even you don't have to change your menstrual cup or like mid-contest, which I've had to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so many other things other than just
Estrogen and testosterone.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I feel like has been made evident through the ages by the fact that we have separated men's and women's sports. And I mean, I was listening to a podcast just recently that it's not even just the physical capabilities, and I hate to admit to this, every ounce of me is just giving Togga too many points right now, but it's a mental capacity as well. So like even in a game like pool or archery, men have a physical advantage over women, regardless of how much estrogen you're taking or testosterone you're blocking. So, it doesn't, I mean, when you look at the history of sport and that we have created the division of male and female.
Exactly.
So that women have a chance, which also, like, I know that there's overlap there too. Like those who, you know, I'm sure there are many men that you have been at snowboarding then, but
yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah.
In a competitive sense, like it evens out the playing field. And that's something that I think, Bethany Hamilton was pointed out. And then for those who don't know the story, like Bethany Hamilton is a famous surfer. She lost her arm at the age of 14, I think.
Really young. Yeah.
Really young, surfing to a shark, and then continued to compete. And she has competed while having babies. She's a mum of 3. Such a legend.
Yeah. Incredible.
She's so incredible. Well, when I was pregnant with Willow, she was like one of the people I was following because she was pregnant with her first at the time. Yeah. And she was like 3 months pregnant, like surfing pipeline. Competing pipeline. Yes. I was just like, huh? So I can still surf. Cool.
Yeah, cool. I'll paddle out at the pass.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and she has said that she won't compete against a biological man because there are clear advantages.
I think as well, coming from like where she has as well, a time when in extreme sports women really, really had to fight for a place. And it has been a struggle to even get to like surfing, being able to compete at the same places as men, you know, stuff like that. And the same with snowboarding as well, like being included in certain events. And then the prize money, it's been a constant uphill battle to be included and seen as a valid, like, reputable, like, competitor. And I think that's why people, this is ruffling feathers, because we've worked so hard to get to where we are. And I feel like women's sport is thriving right now. There's a bigger audience than men's sport.
Yeah.
And I just think that now introducing this, it's like almost kicking us back a little bit, because it's like now we have to prove ourselves against these biological males that are like, I'm not saying that they don't believe that they're, have the same capabilities as the women, but it's different. I also think that we need our own divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at a few of the other sports, and I think a big one that everyone would have heard about was Leah Thompson, who joined in, was it just like university swimming? And just
I don't know the
took out all of the women's like best, what is it? I was going to say goals, but there's no goals in swimming.
Kicked so many goals in that swimming contest.
She kicked, no, but she was just taking out all the world all the records
and
from
that's the
women
thing as well.
Like,
as a biological male, they have those like broad shoulders and that kind of strength that I guess in swimming and paddling for surfing and everything, it gives them that advantage over a woman, where our center of gravity is lower, and that changes things. I feel like it's just
denying biology is probably not the way to go moving forward.
And it's such a touchy subject, because I think, everyone deserves to do what they're passionate about, but I just think that we need to make it fair for everybody.
I think people are upset because, and I think the WSL even said, once unless someone can be like evidence to suggest that it's not fair, then we're going to keep doing this. And I think there's a lot of other, I think like, I don't know what the Olympic body is called, or like the IOC, or I don't know, whatever. I can't, is it IOC? Yeah. I think they said something similar too, that until there's, like any evidence to suggest we're going to do this because we want to be inclusive and all that, which is bloody beautiful in fairyland. But there was a study in 2022, and I think it was like in the University of like sports medicine or something, and it wasn't a big study, but they were able to show that trans women had such like quite an advantage just because of like the cardiopulmonary capacity, and they were able to show that after 2 years of a trans woman taking estrogen, they were still 12% faster than a woman. So and
that was 2 years, did you say?
And then after that, they weren't
taking
really,
hormones.
It was hard to trace. So it doesn't really like 12% is a lot, especially at like,
if you're talking milliseconds in sprinting and stuff like that,
12% is a lot.
Yeah, and they did things like group testing and like lung capacity, hemoglobin, and all of those things in trans, or even like body fat and things like that. Like the trans women had always a advantage over the women who were trans. I don't know the correct term, but it's interesting because like, science apparently matters until it doesn't matter, until we're political. And I just think that that's a kick in the face, because it's kind of there. You can kind of see it. And it just seems like a kick in the face as women who have, finally have that parity to be involved in sport in a man's world. And then you're like, actually, there are people who want to compete with you who are biological males who identify as women, and facial feminizing surgery and breast implants.
And that's the thing, like
you know, growing hair and dyeing it and wearing
Doesn't
makeup
change your
doesn't actually
physiology.
change the fact that you have a biological, physiological advantage over us, and you don't have to worry about your period or
And that's
anything
the thing.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, emptying your cup halfway through an event. Like, that's where I go again. It's like, how, so do they make it so these trans women have to be on hormones for how many years before they're allowed in the event? But at this stage, it doesn't seem to be.
It doesn't seem like there is any evidence to
and I
suggest that after.
Yeah,
I think they did some study with kids or younger youth from like 14 onwards, or I could have my numbers wrong, but I think they followed some kids who had been on hormones from age of 17, and they had taken them for 14 years, and there was still some, like, it was obvious that there was there wasn't an advantage, but there was still differences, and they weren't athletes, but you could still kind of see that there was something there that wasn't on par with like a woman. So yeah, it's interesting that we're like going gung-ho. But then the other point, I know that some of these trans athletes like Sasha, don't actually remember her last name, the person involved with the surfing with Bethany Hamilton. Yeah.
Lewison,
One
I think
of the
it
biggest
was.
arguments is like, well, cool, we would play in our trans, range, but there's not enough trans athletes, so we can't really have a league of our own because there's no competition for us. But I don't really know if that's the best.
But that's exactly what happened.
Women, literally in the 80s, there was like no one, and they were like, "Come on!" And so like maybe they would have had like three people competing. It's like, well, you can't. Women weren't just allowed to join the men because there was only one bloody incredible snowboarder in the 80s or 90s even. Like I'm pretty sure it was like 90s or something, even maybe later when women were snowboarding. And like doing risky shit. So they weren't allowed to just join the men.
Like, it's been so long. Yeah, exactly. What's that documentary about the women surfers? I forget what it's called, but it's amazing, and it talks about how, they were boycotted for so long from events and everything. They had to really push to even be included, let alone get prize money. Yeah. Like, we've been through that struggle to get to where we are. Why is that not applicable for this kind of situation? Like,
interesting.
Yeah, I find it really interesting too that, and I've not done research here, so there could be some anomalies out there, but you very rarely see trans men trying to compete against biological men. But there is quite an influx of trans women trying to compete against biological women. So I do wonder about that too, because if it is a fair playing field, I feel like you would see it happening like across the board. Yeah. So there's just a couple of red flags in there that we could point to. And I mean, something that I think needs to be highly considered for any of our youth at the moment, because I mean, you see some of these girls who have been training all their lives in whatever sport they've tried to, achieve in, whether it be running or, fighting, the women's AFL now. And it's just like, it's heartbreaking because these young girls are like, oh no, or like parents. I mean, parents of young girls are like, sorry, you're not playing, you can't play AFL. Like, you're going to get smashed. So yeah, there's all those things I think that need to be considered a little bit more. Yeah. And while trans inclusion is such a beautiful thing, I feel like there are areas that are very grey and need more consideration and just perhaps a little bit more logic.
Yeah, I think everyone, this might be controversial.
It's okay. We get controversial.
No, everyone is worried about offending the trans woman, but in turn we're offending all the women.
Yeah.
That have put their heart and soul and their life into this, and now it's like, now I've got another thing that I need. Like, I thought we were here, and now we have to prove ourselves again. You know, I think, like you said, it's a beautiful thing for inclusion, but I think there needs to be some more like groundwork done to kind of
let's just apply some logic to the situation, and we can just strip it back to why we separated men and women's sports in the first place.
And that's the thing. I remember being like, I want to compete against the guys when I was first starting out, and like, mate, I was nowhere near their level. Like, when it came to power, strength, speed, like, I just was not the same. Like, they could clear a jump easily and I would not even be able to make it like to the knuckle, you know. I would be, there's just so many differences and we need to highlight those.
Yeah. And for the record, everyone, it's not because Jess was shit or had a lack of spirit.
Sheer determination and stupidity. Yeah.
Although I do believe you could have easily competed against a lot of the guys.
Thank you.
That we snowboarded with. You had us cheering you on.
Oh, yeah, man. I feel like that was a lifetime ago now.
I know. It's wild times. Well, I'm glad we touched upon that because it's been highlighted and
it's a really hard topic, I think, to breach and bring up.
But it does need a little bit more airtime, especially when you see like incredible surfers like Bethany Hamilton being dropped by sponsors. I think she's had that sponsor for 24 years.
Since she started.
Yeah. And they've actually gone and replaced her with Sasha Lowry. I think that's
and like, why couldn't they do both? Like, why? I don't know.
Political, mate. It's political.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jess, for coming on and chatting all things with us.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
It's been a delicious conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. How have you gone over there in Western Australia, Chloe?
I feel like I haven't really said anything, but I chimed in when it matters, okay?
But what you have contributed.
Yeah.
And
with the
on
stats.
point.
I mean,
yeah. Totally
please
on
go and
point.
just read the study yourself, people, because I may have butchered that extremely. I read it at like late last night, and my recall is not 100%. And but for anybody, I'm just looking at it now. It was actually published online October 4, 2022 in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. So go and check that out.
Maybe we can link to it, save it, chuck it in the notes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Road to Wisdom podcast. To join the journey, you can follow us on Instagram at theroadtowisdom.podcast and at www.theroadtowisdompodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. We look forward to seeing you next week with more juicy content.